person will come back and pick you up at 4 o'clock at this point. You know, back in the day, that's how you did it. You have to agree to something and commit. You need to be at this place at a particular time because all you have is your wristwatch. You have no other way of like communicating, right? So they went. Then the husband was like taking his nap, and the wife's like, you know what, I'm gonna go pick them up, right? So she's stirring the pot. So the story goes that she went back to pick them up, found them there, and they both sat in the back. Okay, which already makes it seem like she's chauffeuring or taxi driving them around instead of having, you know, a comfortable experience with her friends, which is just like uncool. So she's now on a mission to break the silence, right? So mom loops around this traffic circle that they get into for 10 minutes straight, just killing time. And the other couple, they don't say a word. So this lady gets to the house with her 2 friends in quotes, and as soon as she gets in the house, she says, pack your bags, we're taking you to the airport. The couple freaks out, you know, they're apologizing profusely, they're so sorry, like how do you guys ignore and not give the silent treatment to somebody who has invited you on their vacation, you know? And the husband starts apologizing, and this woman goes and wakes up her husband and says, hey, I just told them that they're leaving, I'm kicking them out. Apparently the best friend starts crying, the maid of honor best friend starts crying, sobbing on the patio, asking them to forgive her, and she wants a chance to apologize. And you know, the guy is trying to be like, yo bro, like to the other man, and the other man's like, guys, I'm sorry, but if she says you have to leave, then you have to leave. Like, she's the wife, you know, what do you want me to say? And so the husband drives them to the airport, and that was back in the day when you had to get your ticket at the airport. Like, there was no way to like book ahead or anything like that, and they don't know what happened. I mean, like, after that point they don't know what happened. But the guy and the other lady and man did end up getting a divorce. So just to explain like a little bit like what she was saying, she was like, she thinks that the other woman thought that the husband was flirting with her mom, so that was like the little miscommunication or whatever, and so the silent treatment had something to do with that. So I was just like, oh my god, like, so dramatic but also so juicy, right? Literally, can you imagine falling out with friends? Okay, now I've got another story time. This one was told to me by my aunts. So there's this couple that was like in our neighborhood, and these guys things because my mom seemed so normal and down to earth to me. But I knew that they were like optically a beautiful couple. He was a dark-skinned man who had married this beautiful. Now, regardless of skin complexion, this woman is beautiful. She is stunning, okay? She's just a gorgeous woman, and she's also lovely, like soft-spoken, polite, kind. She is a businessman's wife. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly the dynamic they gave. They gave this like hardworking man with this kept woman who made money by doing things like arranging flowers, event coordinating, and things like that on the side. But she did it also for church, and it was just interesting. The dynamic was interesting. They were a beautiful family. They had a couple of daughters who were gorgeous. Oh my god, those girls were pretty. They just were pretty in the face, and also they were slim, and one of them was really, really tall. So they definitely gave that like model aesthetic. No lies, gorgeous, gorgeous girls. Okay. And then, so in my head, this was this perfect little family, you know. One day, my auntie says to me, you know, Mrs., and I'm just gonna call her Mrs. X. She was like, you know, Mrs. X is the second Mrs. X. Like, there's a first Mrs. X. And I said, what are you talking about? And she was like, yeah. So, turns out that, like, the place where my parents, the place where my mom, the place where my aunt lived and grew up in the city. So, like, my grandparents' home in the city was really close to where Mr. X used to live back in the day. And the man was maybe like 10 to 15 years my aunt's senior. So no, not 10, maybe even 20. So at a certain point, alright, hey, okay, alright, so she says that growing up, like when she was of a particular age, this man was married to somebody else. And you guys, it feels like a classic case of the dark-skinned Aunt Viv and the light-skinned Aunt Viv. So he was apparently married before to dark-skinned Aunt Viv, okay, the first Mrs. X, and they had a modest life, and he was doing well in his career. And the sad thing is that for that generation, she was a housewife. Mrs. X Senior was a housewife. Sorry. Mrs. X Senior was a housewife, so most likely she depended fully on him. And it's actually unclear whether he has kids with Mrs. X or not, but I think he does. He did, because his kids and his age didn't quite match, you know. So turns out that she remembered him. She was like, but she had never said anything about it. So we have a traditional wedding that we do in our culture, and it's typically not legally binding, but it's like a customary wedding, or in, I've forgotten the term that people use here, like where if you live with somebody like for long enough, you basically are considered a legal spouse. But basically it wasn't for years, and back then it recently got the ability to be recognized as a legally binding marriage, but in the past it was not considered as a legally binding marriage, which meant that he was traditionally married to her. And this was a very common thing says, you know, I know you, right? And he's like, you know me? Yeah, of course you know me. My aunt was very active in the church, and she was a bit of like fire and brimstone. Like, although she had her own drama, she was like, you know, I know you, right? And he's like, yeah, of course you know me. We've attended the same church for years now. And she was like, no, I know you from back in the day when you used to live in the hood. It wasn't really the hood, but let's just say that when you used to live in the hood, and you were married to another Mrs. X who's not this one, and you abandoned her for this new life that you have. The man, now my aunt is retelling the story to me, and she is cackling away. She's like, he was ashen white. And I was like, oh my god, which kind of confirmed the rumors, right, that he had cheated with the new wife to get with the other wife, because they never were quite able to blend the families. I'm pretty sure because of the scar of how that transition happened. But the fact that my aunt just randomly, after years and years of knowing him, like lets the cat out of the bag right in front of him was so weird. But I think I never saw him treat my aunt weird about it. Okay guys, this couple are the epitome of grace. They are lovely, and so I think that they're just gracious people. Even though that incident happened and it was most probably very awkward for him, they really have put however their relationship started in the past. And I just thought, like,